Alrighty. Good evening, councillors. I now open the ordinary council meeting held on the 25th of July at 7:10 p.m. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the recent passing of a former committee member of the Friends of the La Perouse Museum, Mr. Doug Smith, on the 10th of July 2023. Doug was dedicated to La Perouse and its history and spent most of his weekends taking visitors through the museum and sharing in its ongoing history. Few knew of his commitment and love of our history, and nor of his commitment to the museum, which was significantly under-recognised across the community. Doug was a good friend who was very generous with his time and very caring and a great supporter. Council extends its deepest sympathies to Doug's family and his loved ones, and will now have a minute's silence. Thank you, councillors. Can I please have Councillor Wilson to read the acknowledgement?
I would like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the land of the Bidjigal and Gadigal peoples who occupied the Sydney coast, being the traditional owners. On behalf of Randwick City Council, I acknowledge and pay my respects to the elders past and present and to Aboriginal people in attendance today.
Thank you, Councillor Sett, to read the prayer.
Almighty God, we humbly beseech you to bestow your blessings upon this council and to direct and prosper our deliberations to the advancement of your glory and true welfare of the people of the city of Randwick and Australia. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, councillors. I now call for apologies and leaves of absence. Do we have any apologies? It appears that we have a full house. Okay, there being no councillors who are attending via audio-visual link, that is not required. Can I please have somebody move the confirmation of the minutes? Moved Councillor Rosenfeld, seconded Councillor D'Souza. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. Councillors, do we have any declarations of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interests? I will begin with Councillor Pandolfini.
So mine's in relation to MM 2923. My daughter goes to Coogee Public School, and I'm a member of the PNC, so I won't be voting on the matter. But I wasn't involved at all in the request for the donation. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Veach.
I'd like to declare a non-significant non-pecuniary interest in CC 15/23 Community Investment Program. Two of the recommended recipients are known to me, Mitchell Cumming and Christina Momochi. However, I will be voting on the matter.
Thank you. Are there any further declarations? Councillor Olive?
Yes, I also know Christina Momochi, and so a non-significant non-pecuniary interest there, but I'll be voting.
Thank you. Councillor Pandolfini?
Sorry, I'd just also like to add a non-significant, a non-pecuniary. I also know both Mitchell Cumming and Christina Momochi, but I will be voting on the matter.
Are there any further declarations? I have actually have three. I have one as it relates to CC 14/23, review of the Community Investment Program guidelines. It is a non-significant non-pecuniary interest. I will be voting. My father owns Parker's Sydney Fine Art Supplies, which sells visual art supplies to the public. I have no financial interest in the company. My sister is a ceramicist who resides within the Randwick LGA and would likely be eligible under the guidelines. She has not applied for nor received any grants under this or any other Randwick Council program. CC 15/23 Community Investment Program, July 23, is a non-significant non-pecuniary interest. I will be voting. Similar to the above, my father owns Parker's Sydney Fine Art Supplies, which sells visual art supplies to the public. I have no financial interest in the company. I have no information suggesting that any of the recipients named have recently been, are currently, or would have become customers as a result of the existence of the Community Creative Program or the issuance of these grants. I request that the full declaration is recorded in the minutes. Are there any further declarations? Okay, there being no... Oh, yes, Councillor Burst.
NM 29-23, I'm known to Marie Tesserero.
Could you please turn on your microphone, Councillor Burst?
MM 29-23, I'm known to Marie Tesserero, non-pecuniary, non-significant, and I'll be voting on the matter.
Thank you. Councillor De Souza.
Mr Mayor, I wasn't going to declare anything, but since Councillor Burst has mentioned Cool Marie, as she calls herself, I do know her and her family particularly well. If you follow my Instagram, and I know you do, you'll see Cool Marie often. Cool Marie often says some wonderful things, and I'm very supportive of her. And I too have sponsored her for the city to serve. But in saying that, I have no pecuniary interest, no conflict of interest. I'll be voting on the matter, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. I actually have one additional one relating to CS 25/23, Malabar Ocean Pool Amenities Community Consultation Outcomes. It is a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest. I will be voting in the matter. A close personal friend of mine is a former employee of Sam Crawford Architects. He did not work on the project and no longer works with Sam Crawford Architects. Okay, thank you. There being no further declarations, councillors reminded that I will take a declaration at any time during the meeting if a interest arises. We move to addresses of council by members of the public. I will read the chairperson's announcement and the privacy warning. In respect to the Privacy and Personal Information Protection Act, members of the public are advised that the proceedings of this meeting will be recorded for the purposes of clause 520 to 523 of the Council's Code of Meeting Practice. Audio-video recordings of the meeting are prohibited without express permission of Council. A person may be expelled from a meeting for using or having used an audio-video recorder without the authority of Council. All members of the public speaking tonight will have a maximum of 4 minutes in order to put forward their case. Extensions are available. Presenters will then be stopped once the 4 minutes has expired. Councillors may ask questions of the presenters from the public. However, you are under no obligation to answer them, and if you would not wish to, that is fine. With that, I call our first speaker for this evening is Max Heller on item NM 47/23. You have 4 minutes. Mr. Heller.
Just speaking. Okay. Good evening, Mayor Parker, and councillors. My name is Max Heller, and today I'll be talking to you about basketball in Clovelly. But first, I'd like to thank Councillor Hamilton for putting forward my motion tonight. I'm 13 years old and a keen basketball player. I live in Clovelly, however the closest court to me is in South Coogee, which is 3 kilometres away, and difficult to access by public transport. So I wrote to Councillor Hamilton to ask whether it would be possible for Randwick Council to provide access to basketball in my local area. There are many reasons why basketball court would benefit the community. Firstly, with 1.3 million Australians playing basketball, it is a popular and fast-growing sport and is a good way to stay fit and healthy. Basketball is also a social sport and provides a good opportunity for the community to come together. You don't even need to have organised games. I enjoy meeting new people at the court for a game of pick-up basketball. Finally, basketball is a sport that is accessible to many people. It is a unisex sport and available to all ages. It is particularly popular for children my age and is a good way to keep us off devices and allow us to get outdoors. Thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope you support Councillor Hamilton's motion, as basketball is a great way for all the community to stay fit and healthy outdoors. Thank you.
Thank you. There is a question from Councillor Hamilton to the Speaker, if you wish.
Mr. Heller, thank you very much for coming along tonight. Well done, and it's fantastic that you sent that email through. My question is, what would this mean to you and your friends that enjoy playing basketball if this was to be passed by the council and we created a half court close to your home?
It would mean a lot to me, as it will allow me to develop in sport as well as my friends. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Thank you very much. There being no further questions and after addresses of the public are now over, we will deal with the items in the order that they appear in the business paper, and we will run down the items, beginning with, and just for the benefit of those who are waiting, who are waiting, how this evening will run is we'll run down the business paper in the order in which the items are put. However, what I might suggest is noting that there is only one item which we have there, that we have a procedural motion to deal with that first. Yep, so there's a procedural motion from Councillor Hamilton and Councillor Chappell, just to reorder the business to deal with this first.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that. Okay. Okay. There's only one. I think it's reasonable. We currently don't have a motion in front of us. We've now had the procedural motion. I'll move to Councillor Hamilton to move the motion, and then call for a seconder, and then I'll ask. So there's I saw Councillor Burst first, who nearly jumped out of his chair. So I'll move to Councillor Hamilton, then Burst. Councillor Hamilton is the mover of the motion. Thank you. Then I'll go to the question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I really appreciate your indulgence in this matter, considering we only have one speaker and we have one item before us ahead of the regular agenda. I hope that everyone's read it. I think that it is very straightforward. I find that when we do hear from our residents directly, they're asking for support. We don't have a half court in all of North Ward, and it would be fantastic if we did have something like this. I don't believe that it will impact the residents directly if we work closely with the staff. They guide us. So this is really a matter of putting forward the idea and requesting that they then do the research for us and come back with an appropriate location. So I really hope that everyone supports this. Thank you.
Thank you. The seconder of the motion.
What a great opportunity to get kids outside playing sport. So I certainly will be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you. I've seen a hand up from Councillor Said and Councillor Pandolfini. Councillor Veach, could I just outline, do you have a question?
I was just saying I was happy to support bringing the motion forward for debate while the speaker was here, but I hope you will give consideration to other speakers in future council meetings.
Thank you. So I saw a hand up from Councillor Said, and I apologize. Who else had a hand up? Councillor Said, Councillor Pandolfini. Councillor Said.
Mayor, I'd just like to ask Councillor Hamilton, I don't propose to move an amendment, but I just wonder if she'll accept. I was just thinking about it, that most people do come up with the same proposals about half courts and basketball courts. And it's come to my attention that there's some half courts that I didn't even know existed. So I'd just like to ask you if you can include that we do an audit on the half courts and basketball courts that we do have, that we put that on our website so people will know where they are, and also to do the appropriate markings. I found out there's two actually in the South Ward I didn't even know existed, and they've got no markings whatsoever. So all I'm asking for is that they get updated and put their little semicircle around it and all the rest of it. Once we do the audit, then we'll know what we've got, and then we can put the markings on it and make it appropriate so they actually seem like a proper court.
Thank you.
I'll accept that.
Okay, the proposed amendment was accepted by the mover. I have Councillor Pandolfini and then Councillor Chappell. Councillor Pandolfini.
Yeah, I guess it's just a question to Councillor Hamilton with regards to the motion that it says on there that it's regarding a half and full outdoor multipurpose court in each ward. So I just want to ensure that we'll be getting back that's what you're after rather than just one in North Ward.
Yes, thanks. It is a good question. My motion is to consider the installation of both, and if there is, and thanks very much for Councillor Said's addition to this motion, if there exist a half court or full court, then it would gain an upgrade, and then there wouldn't need to be another one built around that area, because I think that would service the residents that are close to that particular one.
Thank you. Councillor Chappell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just very briefly, we support this motion. It's a great idea. Also agree with more half courts around town. I would even suggest that, for instance, in Central Ward, there is a half court up at Heffron, I believe, but we could still do with one down towards the beach and near the Housing Commission. I think it's probably the same for South Ward. And I would urge all of us as councillors, when these are proposed and residents come to us and complain about them, we remember how important it is that the kids who usually don't get to come at these council meetings are represented in our decision making.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, Councillor Hamilton to close the debate. Oh, Councillor. Okay, thank you. There being no further speakers, I will now put it. All those in favour? Aye. All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. Declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, we now move down the list of mayoral minutes, beginning with MM27/23. Thank you. I apologise in advance for the pronunciation. It relates to a recognition of Fabian Losciavo, also known as Mother Inferior. I take it that the mayoral minute has been read, and I commend the mayoral minute to the floor. Councillors, is there any debate? Councillor De Souza, then Councillor Hay.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I'm here now. Mr. Mayor, sadly, many LGBTQIA+ people in this country are still sadly crippled by the manacles of prejudice and the chains of discrimination. This, in a free and democratic country, is unacceptable and disrespectful to a marginalised group in our community that deserves better. I know the Deputy Mayor Raffaello Pandolfini will also support this mayoral minute, because for 20 years, and I was reading her thing, for 20 years she has advocated for social and environment justice, including discrimination against the LGBTQI+ community. Fabian was one of the original 78ers and took part in the first Sydney Gay and Lesbian Parade in 1978. He lived in Malabar and also was involved in the Malabar Boat Owners and the Sea Rescue Clubs. He was a community member. Mr. Mayor, I fully support this mayoral minute to honour a South Ward resident from Malabar, Fabian Losciavo. How do I say it, Mr. Mayor? Come on, you said it so well. Okay, Fabian. I'll leave it at Fabian, whose courage and leadership of the LGBTQIA+ people was exemplary and should be acknowledged. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I have a hand up from Councillor Hay and then Councillor Chappell.
Just a brief question. Will this be coming back to council? Will a report be written, or will it just proceed through?
Through to the relevant officer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Depending on the details that is agreed to with the family, we'll look at that time to report back to council and indicate what funding necessity is required for the memorial.
Councillor Chappell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for bringing this motion. I met Fabian Losciavo and all the other Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence multiple times. They were at Mardi Gras most years. They've attended a lot of gay rights protests, including recently the marriage equality protests. The order in Australia was inspired by the US order of the same name, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, which started in the late 70s, just before the AIDS pandemic started hitting the queer community. And they were a guiding light in the community, a voice that spoke out. They were often, and I think it's quite interesting, critiqued for making a mockery of the church, but actually I think what the Mayor's perfectly captured in this minute is it was anything but. It was actually a deeply religious thing for all of them to be doing. They were representing their faith and they were representing their community, and I commend the motion.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, I'll now put the mayoral minute. All those in favour? Aye. All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. We now move to MM 28/23, the waiving of fees for the Maroubra Charity Car Show. Councillors, I take the mayoral minute as read. What I would say is that this is a matter which has come to council in various occasions over the years, and the Director of City Services is available to answer any technical questions you may have as it relates to this particular proposal. Are there any speakers? I saw Councillor Hamilton, then Councillor Rosenfeld. Councillor Hamilton. Councillor Hamilton.
My question is just in relation to the amounts. A states the amount is $10,266.72. Over the page, at the bottom of the table, at the top of the page, it's $10,506.52. I just wanted to clarify that amount, and that this is a total of 10,000, and it's but double for 2 years. Is that correct? So effectively, it's 20,000.
Through to the relevant officer. Just for the clarity of the meeting, this mayoral minute results for 2 years. Is one which is identified in the financial year of 23-24 and then 24-25. So it's over 2 years. Director of City Services.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Hamilton, the figure shown on the second page, 10,506 and 52 cents is the correct figure, and that would be 21,000 over 2 years.
Thank you. Councillor Rosenfeld.
Yeah, support the mayoral minute. Good to see this is coming back. A great event for Central Ward, and I remember how many people did enjoy it when it was on. So, fully support the mayoral minute.
Thank you. Councillor Chappell.
Do we need to move to amend the motion so that the substantive motion reflects that figure?
Yeah, it's just typed on the screen. Look, I move it in an amended fashion to reflect the figure stated by Mr. Clark, which is, to correct me, $10,506.52 for the financial year of 23-24 and 24-25. Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Veach.
Yeah, I just wonder if in future years this might come through like a grant application. Because it's the Mayor's contingency, I guess my understanding was it's fine for the current year, but to sort of approve something for a subsequent year doesn't really kind of relate to the word contingency, which would suggest something more last minute. So I'm happy to support it, but I think that just the wording is fairly unclear. I also wasn't sure, as per Councillor Hamilton's question, what was being funded out of this year's and next year's contingency budget. So I just wonder if consideration has been given to that, as well as I understand it's a staff member who's running this event, and just whether that's actually appropriate for council to be voting on it through the Mayor's contingency. Thank you.
Is that what I might do is I will ask a question through to the acting general manager as it relates to the frequency of council making an allocation over years.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There have been resolutions in previous years which have gone over various financial years. It's always a matter for council when it's determining its budget to to either provide for those funds for that particular purpose or not. This source of funding is anticipated to be under the contingency fund for 24-25. That is a matter for council to decide whether it should come under that fund or consider it under a different budget.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? There being, or speakers, there being no further speakers, I will now put it. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. MM 29/23 financial assistance and donations. Councillors, I take the mayoral minute as read. Are there any speakers? Councillor D'Souza.
Mr. Mayor, I must commend you on your generous donations in this mayoral minute. In particular, support for the Purple Hearts Randwick City Football Club. This program, as you may be aware, provides people with disability the opportunity to play football and develop a love of the game within a club environment. Cool Marie, as was mentioned earlier, is another good example of a local resident who raises funds for the Children's Hospital, making and selling homemade articles, arts and crafts, on this occasion running in the city to serve. The third group, which I would like to congratulate you to, and I'm glad you're funding them, is the Filipino Fiesta, the fifth one at Allison Park. It was an event, Mr. Mayor, which I helped start and sponsor when I was the mayor of this beautiful city many years ago. This event, Mr. Mayor, has grown in size and stature, and I would like to compliment the organisers. Your actions, Mr. Mayor, confirms that we are a council who strongly supports a strong sense of community. By your actions, Mr. Mayor, the council has also shown good faith and goodwill to help build a stronger community that is accepting and inclusive of all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So,
thank you, Councillor D'Souza. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, I'll now put the mayoral minute. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. MM 30/23 Memorial for Probationary Constable Morgan Hill. Oh, Councillor Pandolfini. Thank you. My apologies. Thank you. MM 30/23 Memorial for Probationary Constable Morgan Hill. Thank you, councillors. I have received this request directly from the Eastern Beaches Police Area Command, and I think it is a commendable mayoral minute to put to the council. Importantly, to recognise the express recognition of Constable Hill has come directly from the family, who have sought over many years to draw attention to the very unfortunate circumstances around the death of their son, and would like to formalise it with an ongoing memorial. I think that working in partnership with the Eastern Beaches Police Area Command, this is a commendable cause, which I think we can all agree upon. I commend the mayoral minute. Are there any speakers? There being no speakers, I'll now put it. All those in favour? All those against? Thank you. I declare that carried. Is there any urgent business? Okay, there being no urgent business. Okay, thank you. We will now move down the director's reports. Councillors, as I'm looking down, please call out, because I'm running down the list to challenge an item. Beginning with CP 22/23 VPA letter of offer. It's actually a planning matter. Can I have somebody challenge it, please? Councillor Hamilton, thank you. CP 23/23, Councillor Chappell. Okay, thank you. CS 25/23, Malabar Ocean Pool Amenities, challenged by Councillor Said. CS 26/23, Arthur Street, Randwick Motorcycle Parking. No. Unchallenged. CS 27/23, Cycleways and Bicycle Facilities Advisory Committee. Unchallenged. Thank you. CS 28/23, Kingsford to Centennial Park Walking and Cycling Improvements Project. Unchallenged. CS 20. So just to confirm, CS 29. I'm going to indulge Councillor Luxford. It is challenged by Councillor Luxford. CS 28/23, CS 29/23 challenged by Councillor Burst. CC 14/23 review of the community investment programs challenged by Councillor Luxford. CC 15/23 community investment program July 2023 challenged by Councillor Hamilton. CC 16/23 is challenged by Councillor Rosenfeld. CO 33/23 investment report unchallenged. CO 34/23 determination of the number of councillors doesn't it have a clear recommendation? So just one sec, I've got the General Manager whispering in my ear. For those who are listening at home. No, no. Yeah, no, it does have, it has a clear recommendation. No, we're on the item before. Thank you. I declare CO 34/23 unchallenged. Thank you. CO 35/23. Challenged is by Councillor. I actually saw Chapel first. Okay, thank you. And the rest of motions pursuant to notice. Okay, so we move to. Oh yes, I need someone to move the unchallenged items. Yes. Councillor Hay called it first. Councillor Burst. All those in favour of the unchallenged item. All those against. I declare that carried. Just for your benefit, Mr. Hay, Mr. Kelly, it was Hay Burst. Thank you. Now. CP 22/23 VPA letter of offer challenged by Councillor Hamilton. Councillor Hamilton, could you please outline what it is you're moving?
I'm moving it as per the business paper.
I don't believe so. As it relates to this particular item? Okay, so the General Manager has just informed me that this matter will be going to the Sydney Planning Panel. So all delegates, it is a matter for you, but you have the opportunity, if you so wish, to absent yourself from the room. Thank you. Can it please be recorded in the minutes that Councillors Wilson and McCafferty have exited the meeting, declaring an interest as they are delegates to the panel? Thank you. Councillor, one second. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm moving CP 22/23 as per the recommendations on the business paper.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Seconded D'Souza. Thank you. Councillor D'Souza is the seconder. Do you wish to speak to it? Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Chapel.
Just very briefly, that this is one of the few VPAs that has come across the council meeting with a quite significant contribution to affordable housing, so well done to the team.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, Councillor Hamilton, do you wish to close the debate? Thank you. It being a planning matter, we will go straight to a division. Mr. Kelly, am I correct that there remains an issue with Info Council? Okay, so we're going to do it slowly, just so that Mr. Kelly can follow, because there is an issue with the plugin. Okay, what we will do is all those in favour of the motion is moved by Councillor Hamilton, please raise your hand. Okay, we have Councillor Hamilton, Pandolfini, Nielsen, Chapel, Rosenfeld, Olive, Said, Burst, D'Souza, and myself. No, I didn't. All those against? Okay, I have Councillor Veach, Hay, and Luxford. I declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Councillor Burst, you voted for, that's correct? Councillor Burst voted for. Okay. Could somebody please inform the councillors that they can now return? Councillor D'Souza. Okay. So, Mr. Kelly, Councillor D'Souza voted in favour. It needs to be recorded as such. Thank you. Thank you very much. CP 23/23 variations to development standards under clause 4.6, challenged by Councillor Chappell. Councillor Chappell, could you please outline what it is you're moving, and then I'll call for a seconder.
As per the business paper.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Yes, I can.
Seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Councillor Chappell, was there something?
I just had a question as well.
Your question?
Which is just the Maroubra Ferguson Street variation. Could somebody just explain to me what that variation actually means in terms of what the final lot sizes are and the decision making involved? I don't have a problem with it. I just wanted to understand.
Through either to the acting general manager or the acting director of city planning.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the DA for 148 Ferguson Street related to a subdivision of an existing dual occupancy. The lot areas were 286 square metres each.
Thank you.
So sorry, just to clarify, the final blocks will be 286?
That's correct.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, I take it that you don't wish to close the debate. I'll now put it. It being a planning matter, we will go straight to a division. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Okay, I declare that unanimous. Okay, thank you. We now go to CS 25/23 Malabar Ocean Pool Amenities, challenged by Councillor Said. Councillor Said, could you please outline what it is you're moving? They'll then call for a seconder. Councillor Said.
I'll move it as per the business.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Chappell beat you by a fraction of a second. Seconded Councillor Chappell. Councillor Said.
Mr. Mayor, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd just like to start. I just need to clarify a point on page 37. In the recommendation, the construction will start in 24-25 budget, but in the conclusion, it's actually nominated to be in the 23-24 financial year. So I just want to clarify which year it will be built.
Through to the relevant officer.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The conclusion's a typo. With the DA stage, should council choose to proceed with this resolution, take the better part of next year. So we'd be looking to start construction in 24-25.
Thank you.
Also, Mr. Mayor, I know I've passed this, but there is still a lot of angst amongst the residents that it is way bigger than it was meant to be. It's way more expensive than it was meant to be. It was only meant to be a unisex toilet hidden, tucked away in the side of the hill on the pool side, and it's grown into a $2.15 million major construction. The only reason why I've decided to go with it, much to the answer to the locals, is that if we delay it anymore, I can imagine it's only going to get more expensive if we delay it and it goes around and around. So I'm willing to get it started, even though it will be two more years. But in the meantime, can I just get a commitment from the Director of City Services that within this year's budget, the 23-24, that we will fix the pump and the coping and make sure that all abilities, because it is a very good pool for disabled people. So will that be fixed up? Will the shower be fixed up and the picking up of the rubbish on poolside? do we have a commitment that we'll do those almost immediately, and then we can work on the toilets later? And that way we can actually make the residents give them something back. They didn't want these toilets, but they do need the pump fixed and the coping fixed.
To the Director
I
of
just gotta
City
ask him if it's happy.
Services, the question from Councillor said.
Through yourself, Mr Mayor, yes.
Thank you. Are there any, Councillor said? Okay, thank
We'll have
you.
to make an amendment. So.
Councillor Chappell is the seconder. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, we'll now put it. All those in favour? All those against? Okay, declare that carried. Thank you very much. We now move to CS 26/23. Oh, actually, no, that was unchallenged. No, sorry, my apologies. Hold on. CS 28/23 Kingsford to Centennial Park and walking cycling improvements, challenged by Councillor Luxford. Councillor Luxford, could you please outline what it is you're moving, and then I will call for a seconder, and then I'll go back to you to move your motion.
Moving as per the business paper.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Hay. Very quick, off the mark. Councillor Luxford.
Just like to say that I'm so pleased that this roundabout is going to be reconstructed. I did tell everybody that it was such a bad idea that when it was taken away, so I'm glad it's going back. However, I have pointed out to the Director of City Services 2 further roundabouts that have been removed, and I'm hoping that with the reinstatement of this one, we will get the other 2 reinstated as well. Barker Street and Houston Road is an absolute nightmare. It's an accident waiting to happen, as is Doncaster and Day Avenue. So hopefully we can convince people to come to their senses and reconstruct roundabouts at the other 2 intersections as well. Otherwise, I don't even want to think what will happen down there. So pleased to see the roundabout going back.
Thank you. The seconder of the motion, Councillor Hay.
Well, ultimately, I'm grateful to see this roundabout going back in. I have grave concerns about the other 2 that have been removed, and also Houston and Borrowdale, which I understand is planned to be removed as well. But ultimately, I'm happy to see this going back in.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, I'll now put it. I take it that you don't wish to close the debate. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. CC 29/23 Anzac Parade, Franklin Street update on the proposed safety improvements. Councillor Burst. Councillor Burst, could you please outline what it is you're moving, and then I'll call for a seconder. Page 95.
Thanks, mate. I'd like to move it as per the business paper.
Thank you. Councillor De Souza has called out second.
Happy to second it and speak on the matter, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Burst.
Having lived in this area for over 30 years, I think it's been a talking point for a long time now. And even before I got on council, we were talking about it in local precinct meetings. So to see this motion now get to a point where we're going to see some action and some movement forward is a fantastic thing. And I commend the previous councillors for putting this up, and certainly support that we make our roads safer in Matraville and La Perouse. So thank you.
Councillor De Souza is the seconder.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As Councillor Burst has said, he's been in the area for 30 years. The community safety, Mr Mayor, is paramount. This intersection is a potential death trap, as I was quoted in the Daily Telegraph, because we've got cars, 3 cars coming from 3 different directions converging at an intersection that is very confusing. We have a local major school, Matraville High. We've got shops. We've got traffic from Matraville, La Perouse and Little Bay, all going in different directions, and it tends to cause gridlock and create a dangerous environment both for pedestrians and motorists. Mr. Mayor, again, I was quoted, and I stand by the quote, the neglect of this intersection has caused serious safety challenges for motorists and pedestrians alike. The community reached out to me, Mr. Mayor, and they told me they're not happy with the direction council was taking on this particular intersection. They said it was dangerous and we needed to do something about it. I have promised them, and I did promise then, and I promise them again now, that I will act and have this prioritise, this safety issue in council. Although, Mr. Mayor, this may not appear to be a big project to the residents of Franklin Street and Anzac Parade and surrounding areas, it is very important and relevant as it addresses pedestrian safety. So I've definitely got Bill supporting Bill and council on this matter.
Thank you. Councillor Sid.
Mayor. I'd also like to support Councillor Burst. I actually have been following this since 2019 when the motion went up, and I've been sending emails off and receiving emails for the last 3 years about it. Back in December 2021, we had been allocated the money, 1.3 million for the actual planning and for the actual installation. Then in 2022, there was an email in July of 2022 that said it will definitely be built by the end of the year. That was the calendar year of 2022, which obviously didn't happen. Then there was another email to say that from a traffic officer, the intersection of Franklin and Anzac is coming up as one of the worst performing intersections in Randwick. That's why this will go through. Unfortunately, the cost has gone from 1.3 million to 3.3 million. Just a quick question to the council officer. That $1.3 million was for installation, so is it still there? Because apparently if it wasn't used by the end of the year, it would be taken away. That was last year. Is it still there, and will it come off 3.3?
Through to the Director of City Services.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as I understand it, council has to reapply for the project. So I'm not certain that the 1.3 is gone, but regardless whether it's 1.3 or 3.3, we need to reapply for the funding from the state government.
Will it help if I ask Councillor Burke to make it as an amendment and as a resolution that we write to the transport ministers, etc., to maybe boost it along and help the? Yeah, there is a resolution to write to them, but that was for the original one, is that right? Which we actually got. So this is a whole brand new scenario if we have to claim the 3.3.
Through to the
so we have to write a new
officer.
letter.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the resolution, or the recommendation, sorry, I should say, as it currently stands, is that council write to the Minister for Roads seeking funding support for the installation of the traffic signals. So we are, again...
So what I mean is, does it make it a little bit more influence if we do it as a resolution of council, rather than just? Yeah, I suppose it can happen, and want it to happen quickly. Okay.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, Councillor Burst, do you wish to close the debate?
We'll close the debate. Let's go.
Okay, thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you very much. We now move to CC 14/23, review of the Community Investment Program Guidelines, challenged by Councillor Luxford.
So, Mr. Mayor, I would like to move the motion with some amendments, please. Are they there?
He's got them. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Okay, thank you. Councillor Luxford is the mover of the motion in amended form. Do you wish to speak to it?
Let me see. Okay.
Thank you,
There.
councillors.
I know, but I can't. Depends what I'm looking. I like to look here
thank
better. I can see it clearer.
You can commend.
Okay. No, I think it's fine the way it is there. Yeah. Yes. No, I think that with these points that have been raised here in the amendment, we'll make our community investment program a little bit better.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton is the seconder.
I agree with everything that Councillor Luxford has said.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? Okay. All right, okay. So what we will do, just firstly, are there any other speakers? Could you just raise your hand? Just hold on. All right, I'm going to go Councillor Pandolfini, Councillor Veach, Councillor Olive, Councillor Said. Pandolfini, okay. Veach, Olive. You're not the chair, Danny. Yeah, okay, thank you. What I will do is I will throw to Councillor Olive. Councillor Olive, if you'd like to ask a question.
Just where it says about the changing of the objectives to community connect and also community creative. One says to encourage healthy and active lifestyles is one addition, and the other one is an addition regarding audience size. Are these and or propositions? That is, no particular grant can be made if it doesn't include healthy and active lifestyles. Is it or healthy and active lifestyles? So when you're reading it, if someone puts in, so a proposal about healthy and active lifestyles, that means that is eligible for Community Connect, and without all the rest. And the same with the one relating to community creative. So are these to be read the objectives and this, which means that it's binding on it can't be granted unless this is this criteria is met, or else it's or, which means that it could be this or that. So therefore, all it needs to do is to be healthy and active lifestyles to meet the conditions for Community Connect.
Through to the relevant officer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The way that I read the motion is that they will be additional points added in to along with all of the rest of the objectives, so it will be all.
So that means that these aren't conditions which have to be met in order to get the grant.
It's a sufficient, not a necessary condition.
Yes.
Okay, we now have Councillor Pandolfini. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm curious about the intention behind the active and healthy, because I'm just looking at some of the recipients of the Community Connect, and I wonder whether we've actually kind of had a look at our accessibility and disability plans and find that kind of language appropriate, because I just wonder whether Autism Mates, an inclusive project engaging young autistic individuals to become models on the catwalk, would find active and healthy lifestyle guideline, particularly kind of welcoming, or the five-star seniors getting together for singing, whether they would find that inclusive language, healthy and active. We see a lot of fantastic programs on here of, the nippers, and, people know to apply to this for community connection, and if they are a sports organisation as opposed to a creative. But I just question the addition of this language and whether it's kind of appropriate, I guess.
Just confirming that was a comment rather than a question, Councillor Pandolfini?
It's a question.
Okay, it being a question, through to the relevant officer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it will come down to how the assessment panel consider what healthy and active require, and that could be considered in a number of ways.
Thank you. Councillor Veach. Councillor Veach.
Thank you. Look, I have comments about all of these, and I'd really would like this to be a discussion that we could all think about. Under the, and I'm going to actually address each of them because thank you for circulating, sending the amendments previously. If we could go to I think is the first one the active, I think, may I just quickly ask a question for point 2? What is the current review time?
There isn't one.
This is the first major review since the program started in 2020, so 3 years.
Okay. To go to, and what is and to point 3, sorry, councillors, if you'll beg my indulgence, I just have some questions and some comments. For point 3, what is the current funding allocation for the community partnerships?
Through to the Director of Community and Culture.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The current allocation is 200,000, which is broken down into 20,000 and 60,000.
Okay, thank you. Look, councillors, I'm not necessarily against point 3, but I think it's worthy of perhaps deferring and having a discussion, because we know that our own community development business unit is always it is always struggling for enough funds, and I would wonder if perhaps that extra money would be better allocated to our own community development team and their projects. So at this stage I couldn't support that. I would be interested in getting some feedback and perhaps a briefing. For the next one with regard to healthy and active lifestyles, again, sporting clubs and so on can currently apply under the Community Connect for community projects. That is the purpose of this guideline, not so much. Our council does support active and healthy lifestyles. We put a lot of tens of millions of dollars into really fantastic sporting infrastructure, such as playing fields, netball and basketball courts, all sorts of great infrastructure. And we also have a lot of funds put in through the allocation of staff to maintain our wonderful parks and sporting fields and so on. But we don't have that same kind of investment in our sort of community halls, for example. They are quite lacking, I would say, and we literally have no arts and cultural facilities yet. We will have an arts centre at some point, hopefully in the future. That will be hopefully open in a couple of years. And obviously we'll have some mixed use arts uses of the town hall and Barrett House and so on. So these kind of funding pools are really needed by our community centre, our community sector. And again, they are open to sport groups to apply for community events. And I know we do support, for example, the nippers to do their proficiency swims at the Des Renford pool through in-kind. So I don't know that there's any need to change that. The next one was changing, I think. Was that just changing to the mover? Was the change in that one just to change from artists to creative practitioners? Is someone able to just clarify? Is
that is the only change, which is the suggestion from the acting manager of from Roxanne Fay.
Look, I'd probably prefer to stay with artists. I think this is a lot of amendments. It would have probably been easier to vote on these separately. The next one under B, applicants must be located within the boundaries. Look, at the moment, particularly under the community creative, we have students doing projects. We have related people who work or have some other connection. They may not, most of them are living in the Randwick LGA. But for example, if you have a group exhibition, or say it was a musical, you know, a band putting in for a performance or some kind of dramatic thing, you may have members who don't live here, and then they would be ruled out. So I don't think I can support that.
Sorry, through to the Director of Community and Culture, who's able to clarify that the inclusion of must is in the proposed guidelines by staff. The subsequent amendment, if you could speak to that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's correct. That is what we are proposing in the change to the guidelines, but it does also include others who are wanting to exhibit within Randwick LGA.
Okay. And then I think there were some more amendments scrolling down. Oh yes, the last one to do with evidence of community benefit, audience size and capacity to evaluate. Councillors, I can't support this last one. Where you have like people who are engaging in sort of entertainment content, you know, with a marketing budget, that's the type of situation where you would be going, yes, we need this audience to put forward our business case to budget for a particular, you know, program, whatever it is. But when you're an artist or a performer, you may not necessarily know. You're obviously hoping to have a good audience, but I don't know that realistically they're going to be able to say who it is. I would again also point to our lack of dedicated arts venues.
Point of order, we've got 5 minutes, Mr. Mayor.
May I just indulge for one more minute? Would that be okay? Thank you.
I've heard a request for a brief extension from Councillor Pandolfini for 1 minute for Councillor Veach. All those in favour of a 1 minute extension, all those against, declare that carried. Councillor Veach, thank you.
Thank you. I'll try to wrap it up. There's just a lot of points here. I would just note we don't have any dedicated art centres, and so we don't have a place where people go, yes, I know I can go and see some great music events that council is putting on this Friday night, or I can go and see an exhibition. So it's hard to gauge what an audience will be when a group might be putting on an exhibition or something at a venue that has mixed uses. They won't be able to know what the audience is. So what I would suggest as an amendment to this last point is that people do want an audience, and we've had feedback from recipients of council creative grants that they would really like council to promote their projects so they can increase their audience, because they would like to have a bigger audience. So I would suggest as an amendment to this last one that that actually project grant recipients agree to have their projects promoted through council communications channels. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Councillor Olive. Did you also wish to speak to it? Councillor Olive. And then I'll go to Councillor Said.
Yes. With number 4A, where it does say to encourage healthy and active lifestyles, when you add that as an objective here, it is totally out of keeping with all the other objectives, which are about community and inclusion, and this stands out in stark contrast. So if that was a criteria, healthy and sort of healthy and active lifestyle, then I mean, I suppose you could think up projects which were in no way sort of supportive of community or inclusion, if that was sort of your objective and criteria, your objective or a criteria. So I do find that sort of so I object to that. But on those grounds, I think that it's not mutually exclusive though. All the other points that exist in the objectives at the moment, if you read down them, they don't exclude sort of healthy or active lifestyles at all. But it's just not that sort of it's pointed out that deliberately. And so sort of, for that reason, I think that it should be in the objective something which sort of does really pertain to community or social inclusion. Something similar goes for 5A and 5D in relation to community creative, and which is about having a broad local audience, or sort of in Part D, or it must have something about audience size. There may be sort of many innovative projects which staff can see are going to be innovative and have potential to grow, either sort of as sort of an ensemble where you have a lot of small projects, or else sort of you have something which sort of is going to benefit the area but immediately doesn't have huge audience, but yet sort of if you run that ruler over the top of it, is ruled out. So that, once again, I would object to 5A and 5D, and I'd like to put up, well, when the opportunity comes, amendments to both of those, saying sort of that they be ruled out. Thank you.
Now would be the appropriate time if you are seeking to move an amendment, as Councillor Luxford is moving the motion in a slightly amended form. So we're in the substantive debate on the motion at the moment. If you'd like to move an amendment, now would be the time in order to do that.
Yes, I'd like to move an amendment where sort of there's a lot there. So but it's basically that point 4A, point 5A, and 5D go back to their original stated terms.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. They don't actually exist because it's moving. Councillor Olive, from the suggestion of the General Manager, I think he means that 4A, 5A and 5D, rather than say revert to the original stated guidelines, it's that they're deleted from, yeah, because she's moving a motion rather than, yep. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Is there a seconder? Yes. So, well, do you accept them, Councillor Luxford? Okay. Thank you. Is there a seconder to the amendment? Councillor Chappell seconds the amendment, moved by Councillor Olive. Are there any speakers on the amendment? Okay, Councillor Nielsen is foreshadowing a further amendment. Are there any further speakers on the amendment as moved? Olive Chappell. Councillor Chappell is a seconder. No, okay, Councillor Hay.
Just briefly, the purpose of the Community Connect is that, and Community Creative, is we connect the community to the artists. It's no use having art for art's sake. It's important that we do events that people go to. And I encourage everyone to vote against the amendment.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? Yes, you can speak on the amendment.
Yeah, I concur with Councillor Hay. The purpose here of, sorry, I'm a bit upset. The evidence of community benefit, audience size, etc. If you're a performer or have a little band, or you know, whatever, most people have some sort of a following. They also have their family that turns up regardless whether they're good, bad or indifferent. So I think that, you know, it is important that they do connect with the community, and that and what benefit the community's getting out of it is extremely important. And they should be able to at least say, well, we could have 50 people there, you know, make a judgment call as we do. So I'm not accepting any of these amendments.
Yep. Thank you. There is a question from Councillor Veach and then Councillor Nielsen on this amendment. Yep. Councillor Veach.
Thank you. Look, I don't think anyone's arguing that it's great to have an audience, but I just think sometimes I just don't quite know how it's going to work in practice, like through to either the mover or the relevant council officer. How in terms of the last point, for example, capacity to evaluate community impact and outcomes, like, how would we see that? Like, what's that going to be? Thank you.
Through to the relevant officer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The guideline around evaluating community impact and outcomes is something that we already do. And as part of this, we would put examples on the website to help people in their response to that. So the other sort of question around audience size, that will be considered as part of those overall number of benefits. So it'll be sort of considered with a range of other things, not just solely that.
Thank you. There's a follow-up question.
Actually, just may I speak to the amendment? I know I spoke to the motion, but I haven't spoken to
You
the
may,
amendment.
yes.
I guess I know this all sounds it might sound quite reasonable, but I wonder if it's just creating a lot of work that's not really going to know. Like, if you're having an exhibition, obviously you want people to come and see it. You're going to invite lots of people. Hopefully lots of people will come and see it. How is an individual supposed to evaluate the impact that has had on the community and the outcomes? Like I just literally, like, sometimes these things sound good and they're probably well intended, but it is literally just going to make people probably just write some waffle. You know, like, so sometimes you just actually have to think about the person who's going to be writing this. You know, you go and see a concert or you go and see a band perform. What is the outcome? What is the community impact? You'll write something nice, but it's just going to be something that someone's going to say. You're not going to ask people to do a survey, a feedback survey at the end of the exhibition or the concert, which would be ridiculous. And that's really the only way you can evaluate it. So I just think it's, in all honesty, not something that makes that much sense.
You have a question? Councillor Olive, your question?
A question to the mover of the motion about audience size. Are you saying that, you know, sort of all someone has to do is to guesstimate how big their audience size is? So if it's 5 people, that satisfies the criteria? Or you're saying that it has to meet a certain level of people, so it has to have, you know, a certain number of people before it meets the criteria? Like at the Heffron soccer the other day, we had a great audience, 2,500 people. Now, if that was the criteria it'd be very hard for anyone else to actually meet that.
So through that, as the drafter, I might actually be able to assist you in this. In addition to that, as someone who regularly sits through these assessment panels, the consideration of community benefit audience size occurs already, and it is a simple question where what they do is they outline in the applications, is it clearly identified in the application? It's a question which is asked by staff in the recognition of it. The intention behind D is just clearly outlining that, because the feedback provided is that from staff is that community benefit and capacity to evaluate community impact, which is currently drafted in there, are ambiguous and open to a range of interpretation, whereas this is clearer in terms of an assessment criteria. In practice, how it goes is it's a question amongst several, which goes through, and then they look at them and go low, medium and high. Thank you. Did the mover seek to respond to it as well, or we're fine? Thank you. There is a hand up from... sorry, Councillor, before I go to Councillor Pandolfini, Councillor Nielsen, you actually had your hand up before.
I haven't spoken in regard to my opinion as to all the options that we've put forward here, but as you can hear by the discussion, it's actually quite complicated. People have subtleties or slight diversions and so on. What I'm foreshadowing is that if this does not get, the vote doesn't come this way, I'm recommending that we defer endorsing the updated Community Creative, Community Connect and Community Partnership guidelines until we've had a briefing and further discussion.
Okay.
And the reason that I'm saying that is that I can fully concur with a lot of the shades of meaning, interpretation and so on. I think we're all going to feel a great deal happier if we can all feel comfortable about the amendments that are made are not made, so to speak, on the hop, And even though they're well considered, no offence there, but I just think it would be much better for us to have a briefing. We've got the guidelines here as to what we're working with, and we can come to a better consensus, and I think we'll come to a better decision. So I'm hoping that you'll agree with the deferral.
Thank you. So we're on the amendment as moved by Olive Chappell. Are there any further speakers on the amendment moved Olive Chappell? There being no further speakers on the amendment moved Olive Chappell, I'll now put the amendment. All those in favour? Okay, all those against? Okay, I declare the amendment lost. Thank you. We now move to the foreshadowed amendment by Councillor Nielsen. Just voted on the amendment. Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder to the amendment from Councillor Nielsen, seconded by Councillor Chappell? Okay, are there any further speakers on the amendment that the matter be deferred for a councillor briefing? Okay, so just to be clear, hold on. Okay, so it's moved. Nielsen. Okay, seconded Chappell. Okay, speakers on the amendment, to be clear. Okay, Councillor Pandolfini, I saw your hand up originally. Were you not to speak, but you just wished to. Okay, so Pandolfini on the amendment. Okay, thank you. Councillor Nielsen, as the mover of the amendment, do you wish to speak to it?
Just simply to say, councillors, that I think we're all supportive of the various programs, but there are little fine tuning that needs to be done with the wording. But because the wording has implications in numerous ways, as we've found just talking amongst ourselves here around the table, that it's very important that you make one change here, it has to be consistent with another change there. And I think we just need a little bit more time to put our thinking caps on, and also to just do a bit more consultation with the staff. And I think we're going to feel a whole lot happier with the recommendation going further forward if we've had the briefing and we can finalise the wording.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Chappell as a seconder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, I personally have not been following. I know we've been briefed on some of these elements before, but not everything on the screen. And to be honest, it was circulated beforehand, but I only read it here, and it's quite a lot to get across. I think my main concern here is not necessarily that it would be impossible to implement, but if we give someone a form that has a whole bunch of things that says evaluate audience size, and they're not somebody, like they're just a new artist, or they're a young person, they're just trying to do something for the first time, they might think they're not able to do that, and we might be creating obstacles without meaning to do it, because all we want to say is your Facebook event says 20 people are coming, that's great, that counts. And so I would love just a bit more information, a bit more talking to people in the sector to know that we're not putting barriers in there that we're not intending to put in there. It's not any objection to any of the proposals here today. I think they will make sense, but I just think we want to make sure of the impact.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Pandolfini.
Yeah, I'd just like to support that. I think, yeah, I do really have a problem, and I can understand that people might not think that there's anything sinister, but I don't know that it's particularly appropriate, this healthy, active lifestyle terminology, and I don't think it's actually in line with any of the kind of new guidelines around across New South Wales or the federal government guidelines either. And so I think that, you know, a little bit more information, a little bit more thought, maybe a slight tweak to the wording might make it better. But yeah, I guess I look at a lot of the people, you know, who have applied to the Community Connect, and I wonder whether they would second think with that wording, and I would hate that to be the
Thank you. Are there any further speakers on the amendment? Okay, there being... Okay, my apologies. Do you accept the amendment? Okay, that's probably why I didn't ask. Okay. There being no further speakers on the amendment, I'll now put the amendment. All those in favour? Okay, so there's been a request for... So there's been a request from a division, okay, which requires two people. So there's been a request from one councillor for a division. There's been a request for a second councillor for a division, Councillor Pandolfini. All those in favour of the amendment moved, please raise your hand. Councillor Pandolfini, Councillor Councillor Nielsen, Councillor Veach, Councillor Chapel, Councillor Olive. All those against? Councillor Hamilton, Hay, Luxford, Rosenfeld, McCafferty, Wilson, Said, Burst and D'Souza. I declare the amendment lost. Thank you. I declare the amendment lost. We now return to the debate on the substantive motion. Are there any further speakers? Okay, there is a hand up from Councillor Said. Councillor Said.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to clarify on the recommendations on page 99, the panel will consist of relevant staff and may include a community specialist. I just want to make sure that that means that actually on page 117, the assessment panel may include councillors. And I just want to confirm that that removes councillors because I agree with it. And I just want to confirm it doesn't mean that councillors are off the committee.
Through to the Director of Community and Culture.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that's correct. It does, and the guidelines will be updated following the meeting.
Thank you. And just one last question. While we were sitting here going through the debate and I was going through some of the amendments, in the amendment 5B, most of the community creative rules the same as Community Connect, because in 5B it says that applicants must be located within the boundaries of Randwick LGA. Does that apply to Community Connect? Are most of the rules the same?
Through to the Director of Community and Culture.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that's correct. Community Connect also has that very similar eligibility.
Because I only bring that up because Clovelly Public Schools in the Waverley LGA.
Through to the Director of Community and Culture.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As noted, 75% of Clovelly Public live within the Randwick LGA. So the eligibility does say boundaries of Randwick LGA and or principally serving Randwick residents.
That's fine, I accept that. But then if you go to the community creative, then if you live outside the community, if you are part of a band and the majority are on this side, no, the majority are in Waverley, but one happens to live in Randwick maybe, then you would get the money. So what I'm saying, it's setting a precedent that outside the boundaries, even though it's a school and it's P&C and it probably deserves it and it's 75%, if the rules are set, it's outside the, because it's the only school in the area that can double dip. They can get money off Waverley Council and our council. So it goes beyond the rules. I'm just pointing that out because I also had a sustainability garden and no other school within the LGA got one. They got one. No, must, there's the word must in the... The rules, it's the rules. It says there it must be located within the boundaries of the LGA. So we'll have to remove that one.
Not in the spirit of good guys.
Sorry. Thank you.
Or seek to
thank you. Hold on, councillors. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. I have multiple staff answering, essentially heckling from the table. I'd rather throw to the relevant officer to answer the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In essence, it is the same because the eligibility criteria would read or seek to exhibit within the Randwick LGA.
Exhibiting in the Waverley LGA.
No, it's not what that says. Yes, thank you. Okay, all right, councillors. Thank you. Hold on. Thank you, councillors. Once again, there will only ever be one person speaking at the time, who's the person who has the call. Councillor Said has now finished his remarks. Councillor Rosenfeld has asked that the matter be put. I believe that there have been 2 for and 2 against.
Point of order. There is no way with what we've been presented here, Mr Mayor, that we can make a decision on exactly what it is that we're voting on, because with the discussion backwards and forwards, we don't have anything in writing.
No, okay. And so hold on, thank you. So a motion that something is put, there's a seconder from Councillor Hay, is put to the meeting immediately. I will now put the motion there's a motion that it now be put, which is now moved immediately. All those in favour? Aye. All those against? Look, I think it has been carried. Okay, we now move to the. No, it was answered. Thank you, Councillor Luxford is the mover of the motion. You don't wish to close the debate. All right, thank you. All those in favour of the motion moved by Councillor Luxford in an amended fashion. All those in favour. Aye. All those against. No. I declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. We now move to CC. No, that's not what it means. CC 15/23 Community Investment Program. Okay, we are trying to get to a new matter. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of incorrect assertions, but nevertheless, we will continue. CC 15/23 Community Investment Program. Thank you. No, it was challenged by Councillor Hamilton. Councillor Hamilton, you challenged. Could you please outline what it is you're moving, and I will then call for a seconder.
I am moving this as per the recommendations on the business paper.
Thank you very much. Do we have a seconder? Thank you. Thank you.
Reserve my right.
It's all right. Thank you. Moved Hamilton, seconded Rosenfeld. Are there any further speakers? Okay, there is a hand up from Councillor Chappell.
I'd just like to seek some clarification just looking through these. I understand there's been some other conversations offline, but just for the benefit of the meeting, on page 134, regarding item 3, the head-on foundation screening at the Randwick Ritz, $10,000 seems like an awful lot of money for a single film screening. Could I maybe get some more information about what's included there?
Thank you. Through to the Director of Community and Culture.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. There was a budget breakdown included in terms of what the $10,000 was going to be put towards. Some of that was towards a resource to get it up and running. There was some other funding around marketing and promotion, and also included some money towards catering at the event.
Thank you. Just for the public record, there's a minor error in this report, which stated that I assessed the community creative grants for this particular round. I was actually absent for that and re-entered at the very end when they had already been agreed. But I don't believe that there's any need for any amendment to the report. Are there any further speakers? Okay, there being no further speakers, we will now put it. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. CC 16/23 Randwick Markets Trial, moved by Councillor Rosenfeld, seconded by Councillor. I actually saw Councillor Chappell first. Seconded by Councillor Chappell. Could you please outline what it is you're moving?
Okay, first I've got a question through the mayor to the relevant officer. Their markets, are they to be held on Saturday or Sunday, or either?
Through to the relevant officer.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. At this stage, we weren't proposing specifics about dates and times. It was something that we were going to look at as part of the consultation and in liaison with the market operators.
Okay, as such, I'd like to move an amendment which I sent through to David to add a point B that the trial is to be conducted on Sundays only. Now, the reason for that, and as my good friend Councillor said, pointed out the briefing that we're all at, the netballers are there on Saturday mornings, and I do go there regularly on Saturday mornings with recreation with my dog, and I do see a lot of usage of that car park. So I really think that it would be much better to have it on Sundays, given that Heffron Park is one of the two that we're looking at. So I'd basically like to add a B, the trial to be conducted on Sundays only. So we've only got a certain amount of days in the year, but those days, if we can have on Sundays only.
Sorry. Through to the mover of the motion in an amended fashion, to Councillor Rosenfeld.
Yeah.
The query I have, what I might do is just firstly ask to the relevant officer, in moving a point A and a point B, is it your interpretation of this motion that we would only put the question to the community in relation to one day?
Yes. So basically, the consultation will tell the community that we're looking to do this on Sundays. I think it's 10 for the year at either of these locations, and then the community can come back and tell us what they think of that. That proposal. Yeah.
Okay. The follow-up which I have, just in relation to that, is through to the Director of Community and Culture. At this particular point in time, are we aware of any potential implications as to the viability or to the attractiveness of potential market operators?
Not at this stage.
Okay, thank you. In light of that fact, Councillor Rosenfeld, my question to you is, if we have the ability to make a determination as to the dates of the trial post-exhibition, would you be willing to move simply as point A, we get the feedback from the community exhibition and that from the stakeholders, and then to make the determination at that point?
Point of order.
Yeah.
I'm calling a point of order. I find that your position as the chair is not to dissuade the mover of an amendment to a motion. Councillor Rosenfeld has put forward an amendment, and it's now up to councillors to vote for or against that amendment. And I find that this is not really appropriate for you to try and change a person's mind.
Hold on. On the point of order, what I will say is that Councillor Hamilton raises a point as it relates to the conduct of the chair. In this way, strictly speaking, the chair should not engage in debate, which I would argue I'm coming very close to with the latitude of the meeting. Because there is a point of order in relation to that, I feel duty bound in order to do it. As such, it is a matter for you, Councillor Rosenfeld.
I'd like to just leave it as is.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Chappell.
Sorry, just a question primarily at this stage. Broad Arrow Reserve, just through to the relevant officer, that would likely be impacted by nippers operating, would be my understanding, which is primarily on Sundays.
Through to the relevant officer.
That's correct. It would depend on the timing of the markets.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? Councillor Nielsen.
I'd like to foreshadow that I'd move the motion as it was originally put. I would prefer that we go out on consultation as to what people want, whether they want this place or that place, and then when we've got their opinion, then go back to finalising times and Saturdays and Sundays or whatever. I just think that if we go out with too many limitations, after all, we're only offering two locations, and that's, a lot of people would say that's not very much of a choice anyway. I think putting in an extra restriction that it's Sundays only is really hardly encouraging. I would say a lot of people to be even bothered voting, which I think is perhaps a disadvantage. I'd like to leave the goalpost fairly as wide as we can at this stage for the community consultation process to be considering the either one or the other location, and then it's up to, once we get back which is the preferred location, to go further with that. So I would be foreshadowing that I would be moving the I'm moving the motion as originally put in the business paper.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Chappell.
Sorry, just basically for the reasons outlined there by Councillor Nielsen, I'd like to remove my name from this motion. I don't think we should constrain the consultation to a specific day.
Okay, thank you. It is now seconded by Councillor Sid. Are there any further? Yeah, okay, you can speak. Yeah, okay.
Actually, a second, Mr. Mayor, I totally agree with Councillor Rosenfeld. As he mentioned, I did point out that the dates here are determined to be between February and October, and that's right through the actual winter netball season. And that will actually mean that it'll only come to a couple of weekends in the end of Nippers, and Nippers don't have it every Sunday. Unfortunately, I'm sure they'd love to, but they only get on certain days, and I'm sure we can work out which days they've got it, and we wouldn't put the markets on that Sunday. Also, then virtually through the rest of winter, from March till probably September, there is no Nippers. So it can still be Broad Arrow, and it is illogical to have it on a Saturday at Heffron Park, as we all know. So I totally endorse Councillor Rosenfeld's amendment.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further speakers on the motion as moved? Rosenfeld said. Councillor Veitch? No, Councillor Nielsen has foreshadowed to move the recommendation on the business paper in the event that the motion moved Rosenfeld said fails. Okay, are there any further speakers on the motion as moved Rosenfeld said? Okay, thank you. There being no further speakers on the motion moved Rosenfeld said. Councillor Rosenfeld, do you wish to close the debate?
No, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. All those in favour of the motion moved Rosenfeld said with an A and a B? Aye. All those against? Okay, I declare the motion lost. Thank you. Okay, thank you. There's been a call for a division. Moved Councillor Rosenfeld Hamilton. Okay, all those in favour of the motion Rosenfeld said, please raise your hand. Okay, Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Hay, Councillor Rosenfeld, Councillor McCafferty, Councillor Said, Councillor Burst, Councillor D'Souza. All those against, Councillor Pandolfini, Councillor Nielsen, Councillor Veitch, Councillor Luxford, Councillor Chappell, Councillor Olive, Councillor Wilson, and the Mayor. I declare the motion lost. Councillor Nielsen to move the recommendation on the business paper. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Chappell, Councillor Nielsen.
Happy to move it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Chappell. Okay, are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers. Okay, all those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you very much. Okay, okay, so CO 35/23, 2023 Local Government Annual Conference by Councillor Chappell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to propose that the delegates be 2 Labor, 2 Green, 2 Liberal, 1 Independent. Please.
Okay, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Are there any other speakers? There being no other speakers, now put it. All those in favour? Sorry. Yeah, okay. All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you very much. Councillors, what I will do is we'll now have a 10-minute break and we'll return at 9 p.m. being there. Thank you very much, councillors.
There is a Creole expression, to walk together. Where life is hard, people depend upon and help each other, so that man may pray together, praise the same moral principles, and together reaffirm. People depend upon and help each other, so that man may pray together to praise the same moral principles, and together reaffirm.
Motion moved by Councillor Burst, NM 44/23. Councillor Burst, could you please outline to the meeting what it is that you're moving, and then I will call for a seconder, which I've seen Councillor said. Councillor Burst.
As you all know, the Kamei Wharf was a very contentious issue. There was a mixture of support and non-support for it. And I think the community have come back to me quite clearly down in South Ward that they would like transparency, understand the compliance of the environmental issues and so on, and would like to see a clear area where they can find that information. So the idea of this having a quick links tab is to then have a quick links is for anybody that's not familiar with the Randwick City Council website. quick links is one of the tabs where you can go and scroll through different areas that you can look at on the Randwick City, under our Randwick City Council. And so by adding a tab with the Kamei Wharves project, we would then be able to link through to Transport New South Wales, various environmental groups, stakeholders, to be able to see how compliance is going, milestones on the projects. It's a big project, and so I think it's good that the community can see what's happening and have visibility and transparency. So I would urge you to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor said you support the motion as moved. Thank you. As
Thank
the
you.
seconder.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also, with both, all three South Ward councillors were at a La Perouse or Bays and Beaches precinct last night, and funnily enough, people were quoting the length of the wharf, and actually there was 15 different opinions about how long it is, because some measurements are taken from the land, some taken from when it starts from the water, etc. So the actual length is not known. So this is why Councillor Burst has brought this to our attention, because we need to, the residents of South Water and the whole of Randwick LGA need to know exactly what's happening with the wharf, how long it is, how the length of it, actually what its purposes are. Is it a commercial wharf? Is it actually going to be used for a ferry? Is it going to be used for whale watching? Is it going to be used for commercial boats that might end up taking people out to the, in rough seas, that might take them out to the oil tankers or something? So we really do need to know what's going on. Does this mean that boats will now moor on the wharf, no longer have to come up on the beach at Frenchman's Bay? And will the beach be then made into a designated surf beach or a swim beach? And if it's a swimming beach, then you can't put your boats or jet skis on there. So there's a whole lot of essence that's coming, whether it destroys the seagrass, whether the seahorses are safe. All these questions are going to be posed to us, and with the quick links and also information on the website, that way we can inform our residents what actually is happening, and we can keep them up to date with timelines and the cost and everything else, and what's happening with the parking, and what's happening with the traffic, and what's happening with the toilets, etc. So I think I commend this.
Thank you. Councillor D'Souza.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too was at the precinct committee meeting, and it became obvious to us that the community felt left out and they weren't aware of what was actually happening. We know the wharves are going to be built. There was a lot of misunderstanding about the size, the reasoning. There's an old saying, knowledge leads to confidence. Ignorance leads to fear and insecurity. At the meeting yesterday, at the Bays and Beaches Precinct Committee meeting, it became obvious that the community felt very, I use the word lightly, ignorant about what was occurring. We know they're building wharves. We don't know the reason why. We don't know the purpose. But in saying that, I think Councillor Burst has got a wonderful motion. He must be a bit psychic, because that's what the people said they wanted, but he confirmed with the group yesterday that, look, I've taken action. I've done something about it, and we're going to get exactly what you want, unless there's going to be some amendments. But I must support this, because that's what the committee wants, and I commend Councillor Burst for doing what he's done, and Councillor Said for seconding it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, Councillor Burst.
If we can close debate.
Thank you. Close the debate. All those in favour?
Aye.
All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. Declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. NM 45/23. Notice.
I have a point of order.
Yes,
Mayor.
thank you. There is a point of order from Councillor Rosenfeld.
Regarding the Code of Meeting Practice Part 15.11, this item, even though I kind of agree what it's saying, it's outside the jurisdiction of the council according to that Code of Meeting Practice, and hence it's really not up to us to be debating this. So, Mr. Mayor, I ask that this Petty Wong can debate this in federal parliament, but not here. So that's my point of order.
Thank you, Councillor Rosenfeld. It being a point of order, so Yeah, so Councillor Rosenfeld has called a point of order under 15.11 of the Code of Meeting Practice. Councillors, I rule that there is no point of order, but I'd like to outline the reasons why. The reason why is, in my reading of 15.11, a councillor who attempts to move a motion or an amendment that has an unlawful purpose. I don't believe that this is an unlawful purpose because there's nothing which is preventing us from otherwise doing it. There's no external statutory obligation on us, and a range of other reasons as to why we couldn't necessarily do it there. Deals with a matter that is outside of the jurisdiction of the council or committee. Okay, my reading of this motion is almost all of the particular motion is outside of the jurisdiction of the council or the committee, except for, and can I please have the motion, as it relates to I. And the reason is right to the Minister for Foreign Affairs and a range of other ministers in relation to it. Clearly that is something which council can do. It has been the custom and practice of Randwick Council to accept onto the paper, general managers in the past, to accept onto the paper notices of motion of a similar vein. However, in my interpretation, this probably flies as close to outside of the jurisdiction as they can, and for council to then debate these particular motions. It is for those reasons and the custom and practice of Randwick Council that I rule that there isn't a point of order. However, I would suggest that we're getting pretty close to 15.11. Thank you. No point of order. Councillor Veitch, would you like to move your motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And look, I'll take this as read, though I do understand that it was quite a long piece. I will very briefly give some background as to why this put in. This was put up at the request of a local resident. It was a resident who is Japanese. She's now gone back to Japan, but she was working here on a working visa, temporary working visa, and then during the pandemic, on a pandemic visa. She was working, living in Matraville, working in botany as an essential worker in a food factory. Under pretty challenging circumstances, and it was very challenging for her and many of the other workers she was with, and I tried to help her as much as I can. This was something that was a matter very close to her heart. She raised it with me a number of times, knowing that I was a member of the Greens. I did raise it with federal Greens colleagues, but now that this has come back and the water is about to be released, I just sort of felt it was something I wanted to do for Megumi. I did ask her if she would be able to Zoom in tonight. She didn't feel her English was good enough to speak about nuclear waste on a Zoom meeting at council, so she wasn't able to join us, but I will note that we have a lot of residents with close connections, or family members in North Asia and China, Japan, Korea, also a bit further south, Indonesia. They will be the first countries impacted by the release of this water. It will eventually spread to the rest of the Pacific, including Australia. But I will note that we have a lot of residents for whom this will actually be a very big issue, because it is a huge issue, particularly in places like Korea and China. In Korea, there are a lot of protests. There have been a lot of protests in Japan as well. The fishing communities of all those countries have been very clear in their opposition, and so I think may seem tenuous to some, I do understand that, but there are reasons for me putting this up. And there will be local residents for whom this is something that they will be very concerned about, if not for themselves, but for their families back at home. So I hope you can see a way to supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any... Councillor Chappell's the seconder.
Just very briefly, I think as a coastal council, we have a special responsibility to the stewardship of waterways, and Australia has been a bit of a leader in this, particularly in the nuclear space, and I think it's important we recognise that.
Thank you. I saw a hand up from Councillor Nielsen, Hay, and then McCafferty. Okay, Councillor Hay, Nielsen, McCafferty.
Firstly, I'd like to dispute, I looked it up, there were 17,642 electors in Westwater the last election. For all the campaigning I did and all the people I spoke to both before and after, I haven't had a single person speak to me about our Japanese foreign policy or about the details of nuclear power. But let's put that to one side. let's think about the Fukushima disaster. There was a tidal wave that killed about 20,000 people. How many died because of nuclear radiation? One disputed death of someone who died of lung cancer 4 years later. If you count that, that brings the total number of deaths caused by nuclear power to 1 this century. Now, the reality is, we need to, a lot of people have talked a lot about tackling climate change, and the only way to actually get somewhere is by embracing nuclear power for being the safe, alternative fuel source that it is. This motion is designed to condemn nuclear power as being somehow unsafe, and I urge everyone to vote against it.
Thank you, Councillor Nielsen.
If this motion isn't supported, what I would foreshadow is that, well, I'll be prepared to move that council receive and note this motion, because I agree it's very important. I agree with all the points made. I also take consideration of the points that were raised about should we be writing to this organisation and that council, that ambassador and so on and so forth. But I do think that it's very important that we do acknowledge the fact that council has received this report, or this motion I should say, and that we are concerned enough to receive and note it, and at least it's on our books, because I think that it's important that we do receive and note we are a coastal council. We do know how waters are polluted, unfortunately. I don't feel nearly as comfortable as Councillor Hay does about nuclear power and so on. I'm concerned about the whole host of issues. I totally empathise with South Korea and Taiwan and the other, Japan, the other countries that are concerned about the waste, the water waste. So I move that if the motion is not carried, that council then move to receive and note this motion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Nielsen has outlined her foreshadowed motion in the event that this fails. It was McCafferty, I believe, and then Olive.
Look, Mr. Mayor, you've already ruled on the connection or lack thereof of this motion to our LGA and our jurisdiction. The one connection that has been made since your ruling is that someone who once lived in Randwick LGA and has now moved back to Japan has raised this with Councillor Veach. I do not think that that is a sufficient connection for us to be engaging in foreign policy debate and wasting the time and the money of our ratepayers pursuing things that are really not our business.
Just on that, I will take it as a point of order. Look, I think it is reasonable feedback. I have ruled on the point of order. Further to it, I would suggest that the views as it relates to this particular motion probably go to the merits of the motion rather as to whether or not it is in order. But I do take it on board. Thank you, Councillor Olive. And Councillor McCafferty, if you could please turn off your microphone. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that so there is a serious connection. I mean, apart from the obvious direct connection and the obvious salient points that have been made in this motion, this is a terrible precedent, sort of for the globe. If we think that dumping nuclear waste into the oceans can be solved by dilution, and sort of Japan does it, and then other countries go, well, yeah, that's okay, we'll do it too. We are a coastal community. And that can seriously affect us, sort of right here and right now, sort of in the near future. And so I think, sort of it's something that is really close to us and something which is very important for Randwick and something that we should consider. And that's why I think that we should, as sort of councils representing sort of local residents, be asking our other elected officials to represent our dismay and our objection to this the nuclear waste being dumped from Fukushima into our global oceans.
Councillor Hamilton.
what we have here is another example of a gospel from the Greens. We're being preached to. The residents of Randwick Council have not voted for 15 councillors to step up and start to play with state or federal politics. It is not the place of councillors to delve into federal politics, because we have residents wanting to hear from us and wanting results from us around their schools, around their sporting amenities, around their general amenities, toilet blocks and all the other things. So the fact that we are standing here looking at a 1,000 word essay, basically, and of those 1,000 words, well, it's over 1,000 words, Randwick is not mentioned one single time. So I don't understand why we continue to see items coming before us that are way outside of our jurisdiction, and the fact that out of the 1,000 words, we've got 1 point right to the ministers. I think that this is an absolute waste of time. It's happened continuously since I was on council in 2017, and I think that we should stop this.
Sorry, thank you. There is a point of order.
There seems to be some imputations in there which look like they would be in breach of 15.11 in imputing improper motives to other councillors, in putting too much on the business paper and going outside of the bounds of what council is supposed to be considering.
I rule that there is no point of order, and the reason why is that I don't believe that it was the intention of the councillor in making those remarks to clearly undermine or impute the motivations of it. I think in the comments which were made, it was a view as to the merits of the behaviour rather than the intentions behind doing so. In relation to insults or unfavourable personal remarks, I don't believe that they were targeted or personally in that particular regard, but went rather to the overall general belief as to what appropriate council business is in relation to that. And I don't believe that there is an allegation of a breach of the code of conduct either. So I rule that there is no point of order. Councillor De Souza.
Mr. Mayor, I share Councillor Beach's sentiments. At the end of the day, it's all about humanity. We're all part of this world. I agree with some of the protests made. The word was used, point of order. I think what we should have discussed was the legality of and I'm not questioning you, Mr. Mayor, or the council, legality of the notice of motion, because it's outside the scope of council. If I was the mayor, I may have ruled differently on those grounds, but that's not why I say this is all of us. We live in a world, a universal world, which will affect us. Where is the rainbow warrior when we need it? The rainbow warrior is anchored in West Australia. It's trying to fight Woodside and its development. But, you know, there are people who say, it should be done here and this and that. But there are good people in the world that sometimes plant trees for others whose shade they will never sit under. And when you think of that philosophically, what Councillor Weech is doing and her group is basically saying, this is an issue, this is something, I guess, if we look at it from an environmental point of view, or if we go to the courts, there is a principle which I forget the exact principle, besides intergenerational equity. It's a principle which says that if you think something bad is going to occur, if you think, and the courts have ruled on this, if you believe that this is negative and destructive to your community, then you should act. And you'll get, and I think in this case, Councillor Weech may express a view when she closes her debate. This is going to affect all of us. Yes, we may not be in Taiwan or South Korea or so close to the affected ocean, but eventually the fish that are there, the waters that flow, you know, there's an old saying, within, I think, within the 4 Cs, I mean, it's in the Quran, and within the 4 Cs, all men are brothers. I mean, now we have to say men and women, brothers and sisters. The fact is that this will affect us all. So debating this issue, whether the person's gone back to Japan, etc., eventually it'll affect us. In what capacity? We're not aware of. But I forget that principle, I will think of its name, but it clearly states that if there's a concern that this will affect the community and it's negatively, then we should act to prevent it happening. Thank you.
Okay, the motion has been put. Someone is able to close the debate. There being no further speakers, let's put Councillor Veach to close the debate.
Thank you. Councillors, I personally don't believe in nuclear power, but for those of you who do, I think you would all agree that the disposal of nuclear waste, radioactive waste, where nuclear power is used, needs to be treated seriously. I would hope that there would be no disagreement on that. So if you do believe in the benefits of nuclear power, if you believe that's a good thing, I don't believe there would be any argument in saying that the waste which is generated has to be disposed of with the utmost care. And in this instance, what we have heard is that having to deal with the outcome of this accident has cost billions and billions of dollars. And in order to save money, they are looking to dispose of this in the Pacific Ocean. Now, it can be solidified or it can be contained in seismically secure vessels. But that is not the option that is being put here. The option is the cheapest option, which is simply to discharge it into the Pacific Ocean. So, councillors, I would really ask you to consider, I'm actually correcting some information.
Just hold on. I will hear the point of order.
In Councillor Veach's closing remarks, she's raising new information that is not even included in her notice of motion with regards to cost effectiveness or not. And so she's basically generating a separate argument to try to force the votes.
Oh, look on that, Councillor Hamilton, I don't think that there is a point of order, and the reason why is I think she's being relevant to it. I don't believe that there are new arguments which are contained, because I think they're broadly the arguments which are contained within this. But yeah, and so just hold on, and it is in reply to some of the suggestions which were raised during the debate, which I think is a reasonable one to do. But what I will say is, in reply, if you could keep it as much to the debate in the motion as possible. Thank you. Sorry, thank you. Do you have a point of order?
No, it's not a point of order, but I remembered what the principle was.
Oh, okay.
Or the precautionary principle.
Okay, thank you, Councillor D'Souza. Councillor Veach, if you could please.
Thank you, Mayor Parker. Thank you, Councillor D'Souza. So yes, for those councillors, if that is a consideration, please note that the disposal of waste is something we should all be concerned about. This is simply writing a couple of letters, a single letter posted to 3 or 4 different people. I don't believe it will take that very much time, because the information can simply be cut and pasted from the motion. I really hope you all consider and vote in support of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There being no further speakers, we'll now put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? No. Okay, there's been a request for a division. Is there another? Okay, thank you. It's been requested by Veach, Chapel. All those in favour? Okay, Councillor Pandolfini, Councillor Nielsen, Councillor Veach, Councillor Chapel, Councillor Olive, and a half-hearted Councillor Said. Councillor Said, have you decided what you're going to do? Okay, thank you. Councillor Said, Councillor D'Souza. All those against, which is Councillor Hamilton, Hay, Luxford, Rosenfeld, McCafferty, Wilson, Burst, and the Mayor. It's no fun. I believe the Yeah, I believe it's been lost. Councillor Nielsen, to move your foreshadowed motion. Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Said. Okay, thank you. Councillor Nielsen, to move your motion.
Yes, I think it's important that our council makes acknowledgement that we have received this this motion. The fact that we have voted against sending off any correspondence is another matter, but this gives us another chance to acknowledge the fact that we have received this motion, and it's recorded officially in our minutes of the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further speakers on the motion?
I don't understand. It's in the agenda, so we have it's in the business paper.
We do.
Then I can just explain to you that if that's the only
So
information that
thank
people
you.
have, that's it. But
So
if
hold
we
on.
have this,
Thank you.
people
Hold
have
on.
got a second to-
Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Nielsen will be heard in. Come on, you were heckling during the debate. Councillor Nielsen, please continue.
Make the point to Councillor Hay that, and I acknowledge the point he's making, but the point is that what this motion is doing is just making sure that when people read the minutes, that they realise that council have received and notes the motion, and then it just gives it more substance.
Thank you. Councillor Said is the seconder.
Just very quickly, Mr Mayor, the reasons why I agree with Councillor Nielsen is that in the area that we live, especially, and I know this is local, that we've always fought against the pollution of ICI and other industries that have, and the incinerator. We've also, the Randwick Barracks, there's asbestos everywhere, there's pollution everywhere, and this will affect us in some ways. And I was thinking about it tonight. If it goes into the Pacific Ocean, it is a bad thing to do. So I agree with it, but I also agree that Redinoni will actually mean that we do take care of the environment.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers on the motion moved Nielsen said? Okay, there being no further speakers, Councillor Nielsen, do you wish to close the debate? No, thank you. All those in favour? All those against? Okay, so there's been a call from one councillor. I declare it. No, it was okay. Now there's been a call for a division from two councillors. Thank you. The reason why I'm doing that is it was brought to my attention that a division does require a call from two. It was something which I had completely missed, and to be fair, I apologise for that. That's the intention why that's being applied. It's clearly in there. It was brought to my attention by Councillor Hamilton earlier. We'll now go to a division. All those in favour of the motion as moved, Councillor Nielsen said. Okay, Councillor Pandolfini, Councillor Nielsen, Councillor Veach, Councillor Chappell, Councillor Olive, Councillor Wilson, Councillor Said, Councillor D'Souza. All those against, Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Hay, Councillor Luxford, Councillor Rosenfeld, Councillor McCafferty, Councillor Burst and the Mayor. I declare the motion carried. Thank you. NM 4623, notice of motion from Councillor Chappell. Councillor Chappell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you. Just very briefly, this is a motion looking to get a report into the reduction of textile waste in the Randwick LGA. It's not something we have a dedicated plan focusing on at the moment. We are seeing at local charity shops, because I know I've been talking to them, that disposed clothes and fabrics that are broken are becoming a real issue for them and causing real costs, and they've said they would like to see textile waste recycling in our area as part of a solution. Currently what happens is most textile waste that then gets donated to those shops that's broken, just they have to pay to take to landfill. So it's either residents chucking it in a landfill or they're chucking it in landfill. it's been a subject of discussion in the school parent chats whether we could have a textile waste recycling service. I think that's probably beyond the remit of what council itself can offer, but I think there's merit in getting a report about what services are available. I know Vinnie's offers a quarterly pickup that they're keen to offer to Randwick residents. I know we have a few residents who are actually working on startups around textile waste recycling. And it's something that we could talk to our community about. We could provide facilities. If there was enough interest and there were programs available, we could potentially notify them and say, look, there is a quarterly pickup. We'll do it, second, Tuesday of the month or whatever it is. And then the other part of this is to look into whether we can help residents learn to do repair and basic kind of mending of clothes. The City of Sydney and Waverley Council both have fairly advanced programs on this where they partner with organisations that do like free workshops to teach people like me who never learned how to sew, how to like put a button back on. I can drink beer. How to do things like put a button on, mend a hole, etc. The intention is not that that would be a big, multiple events, but that maybe this is something we could consider offering once or twice a year and see if there was a local appetite for it. Possibly around the university, there might also be an appetite for it. And it kind of revives these skills. It's the back to basics of, reduce, reuse, repair, recycle circle. And I hope we can also support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Pandolfini. You're the seconder of the motion, is that correct? Councillor Pandolfini is the seconder. Then I've seen a hand up from Councillor Said.
Yeah, I just would like to commend this motion. I am on the PNC at Coogee Public and also work in the uniform shop, and I cannot tell you how many times I'm asked about this, and people bring things in. I also am of the generation that was not taught to sew, embarrassingly, and my daughters I know are getting quite into it and would love programs like that. So there's lots and lots of interest, and being sustainably forward and groundbreaking council that we are, I think it would be wonderful to get on board and provide a bit of information to the community on this. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Said.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just quickly, I commend the motion. I actually don't know if anyone else read it, but actually in this month's local government newspaper, Hunters Hill did exactly that and also got a grant from the state government. Maybe we can apply for a grant as well, and had a drop-off zone, and what was good went to St. Vincent's and what wasn't good went probably to get mended or whatever. But I thought it was a really great, and it coincidentally came the day after we got our business paper. So I commend the motion. I think we should actually have some form of drop-off day, and we should find out where that grant came from and try to do the same and get the state government to help us pay for it.
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton.
As a sewer, a knitter and a crocheter, what I would say is the reuse of any kind of textiles still generates waste. And so repair and mending, I like the idea. I've done plenty of it. I made all my first child's, all her bumper stuff, all the baby stuff, as you do when you're on a budget. But I just wanted to express that you still generate waste. So it's not like something that we can just say, all right, everyone reuse all of your, all of your fabrics, your fast fashion, whatever you want to call it, reuse everything. When you do have a mending or a sewing workshop, you're cutting a lot of stuff. So you're actually cutting up a lot of it. And so you're throwing away smaller pieces, you're throwing away a lot of cut up pieces. And when they're in their full state, they are able to be used. So you're able to donate them to somebody, they could wear them. Oh my God, Bill. No, sorry.
Sorry, the council will be
yeah,
heard in
I was
silence.
just
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just distracted by some people talking beside me. So
Thank you. All councillors will be heard in silence.
what I was saying was, even when you go to a mending workshop and when you go to a knitting circle and you're crocheting and all of that kind of thing, you do generate waste. I'm just pointing out that this is not something that means that the waste just disappears. And what I was pointing out was that fabrics and clothing especially, if you donate it, then of course someone has the opportunity to rewear it anywhere in the world. I do like the idea of sending clothing to people in need. I really like that idea. But I just wanted to point out that repair and mending workshops, they make a massive mess, just saying. Heaps of messes in the corners of all of my rooms when I'm trying to make something.
Thank you. I have Councillor Luxford, then I'll go to Councillor Nielsen.
Yeah, as someone who regularly donates clothing to the church in Newtown to be given to anybody who needs it, the blue bins that we see around that belong to various charities, etc., are exactly for that, for clothing that is not necessarily able to be reworn or used by somebody. So they sort what is able to be given out, but the other goes and is made up into dusters and rags and that type of, and is sold off for the charity to mechanics, workshops, like these kind of places where they need a scrap of, and my dad was a mechanic, and I clearly remember my mum cutting up clothing that was of no use to anybody anymore, so that it could be used in the garage to wipe oil off dipsticks, etc., etc. So while I like this idea, I do concur with Councillor Hamilton that there is a lot of mess in mending and sewing, and I do sew. The blue bins are exactly for that, and the clothing that we can't give into the church to be given out to anybody in Newtown, we put in those bins to be cut up exactly for dusters, rags, whatever they, for factories and workshops, and the charities are still making some money out of it.
Can I maybe just clarify that it's my intention that the motion includes that we tell the residents about the blue bins, not that we replace the blue bins?
Okay.
That's not the intention.
Thank you. There's a point of clarification. Okay. To be clear, the mover of the motion has clarified for the meeting the intention behind it. Councillor Veitch. Oh, no, sorry, my apologies. Councillor Nielsen, then Councillor Veitch.
Thank you. I was just going to add a name that would be worthwhile us contacting, who is full of ideas. Professor Veena Sahawala from University of New South Wales.
Okay, sorry. The mover of the motion, Councillor Chappell. Councillor Nielsen has a suggested inclusion, which is a matter for you whether or not you'd like to include.
A woman who lives and works in the city of Randwick, Professor Veena Sahawala from University of New South Wales, who has the most awesome ideas, creative ideas of how to use waste, reuse waste. One of the ones was how to use coffee grounds, and then I think from memory they were turned into awnings over balconies, things like that. Incredibly creative. So it would be really nice to add her name, I think, to someone for the officers to contact to see whether she has some ideas, and also she might like to take some of our waste and turn it into something more creative. So her name is VEENA SAHAJWALLA from the University of New South Wales, and she's Professor. Thanks, David.
Could I maybe just propose 2 minor amendments just to clarify the intention there? So one to maybe just say that it include consideration of evidence from relevant experts, and if we know of anybody we can say, and that when I'm talking about reducing textile waste, that includes kind of talking to residents about the blue bins, if we could, because I use them and I recognise their role, of course.
Thank you. I take it that Councillor Pandolfini accepts that. Thank you. Councillor Veitch.
Yeah, look, I think this is an excellent motion, and I think it is just about recognising the fact that, yes, it's absolutely fantastic to repair and mend, and that's a skill that a lot of people don't have. I mean, I learnt it, but I sadly haven't used it very much, unfortunately. And that, unfortunately, while a lot of good clothing is getting donated to charities, it's mixed up with a lot of stuff that we can't reasonably expect someone to wear, and it's creating a massive burden for charities dealing with this huge volume of clothing. And so I think this is a fantastic motion. Thank you.
Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, Councillor Chappell, do you wish to close the debate?
Just to confirm that I've just asked Mr. Kelly to clarify that the textile recycling programs explicitly includes the blue bins.
Okay. Just to confirm, is everything which is required in order for me to put this motion up there? Does everyone understand what they're voting on? All good? Okay. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried. Thank you. We now move to please no more points of order. I take that as a satirical one. We now move to NM 4723, notice of motion from NM 4823, notice of motion from Councillor Nielsen. Lurline Chamber of Orchestra be invited. No, we've dealt with that. NM 48/23, notice of motion from Councillor Nielsen. Lurline Chamber Orchestra. Moved Councillor Nielsen, seconded Councillor Luxford. Councillor Nielsen.
I'm happy just to move this to save time. I think there'll be total support for it. I'm not anticipating any opposition, but if there are any questions I need to provide you information for, I'm happy to do so. But I hope you'll all endorse this proposal, and obviously when it happens, which I hope it does, that you'll all be there and clapping and enjoying it. So I hope you all support this.
Thank you. Councillor Luxford is the seconder. Thank you. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, I will now put it. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. NM 49/23, notice of motion from Councillor Nielsen. Screening of silent films, The Breaking of the Drought, or A Girl of the Bush be shown at the Randwick Town Hall. Or the Randwick Ritz Cinema. My apologies.
Yeah, I need to make a slight amendment because, as you see in the business paper, it says at Randwick Town Hall. But then you see actually in the motion it says at the Ritz Cinema. This is following having a bit of a talk to our council officers. So the subject heading is should be at the Ritz Cinema in 2023/24. And I hope you all support this. And the reason that I'm wanting you all to see one of these movies is they are truly incredible, beautifully filmed. And the fact that it was produced, on a table back there in Barrett House is also truly amazing. And I think we're all going to enjoy it. And the council officers that I was talking to said that the town hall is not actually the most ideal situation for showing a film like this. It's going to be a lot better to be able to use the equipment at the Ritz. And because we not only have to use the film thing, we've got to have the sound as well, so it'll be a lot better. So in many ways I like the idea of the town hall, but we're going to be a lot more comfortable in the Ritz. The popcorn will be good too, I suppose. But anyway, I hope you all support this one, and I hope you all look forward to it.
Thank you. Councillor Pandolfini is the seconder, and then I'll go to Councillor McCafferty. Thank you. Councillor McCafferty.
Just a question to the mover. Have you at least spoken to the Ritz about this proposal? Because they are a privately run business and the proprietor does have to look after the bottom line as well.
Yeah, thanks for the question. And the council does quite often show films and so on at the Ritz, so we do have a good relationship with them. And they are very supportive of things. But would you like to perhaps refer the question to the relevant officer? Would that be a sensible option?
Through to the relevant officer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whilst we haven't spoken to the Ritz specifically about this screening, as Councillor Nielsen said, we have held screenings there previously, so it would be a similar arrangement.
But maybe just to take that comment, because I agree, it's always a very sensible comment. Do you think, well, sorry, not always a very sensible comment, but that certainly was. Do you think it is safer in the motion then to say, or at the Randwick Town Hall? So that way we've got all bases covered?
Through to the relevant officer.
That's a matter for council in terms of what you would like to add. However, I do note the motion is to investigate and report back on the screening, so that's something that we could include in the report back.
Thank you, Councillor Sid.
Mr. Mayor, I was just going to add to that I think by memory because we do donate to the Jewish Film Festival and a few other things, that there was an agreement with the proprietor of Randwick Ritz that we were able to use the Ritz for not only for films but also plays, also the poetry slam. So there was different. I think maybe Mr. Hay remembers, but this is pre-COVID. I don't know if it's changed, but we were meant to be getting it 3 or 4 times a year.
Through to Councillor D'Souza.
I just want to say, Mr. Mayor, Jack Ziardi, the owner, is a very good friend. I'm quite happy to speak to him on this matter, but I don't think you need me. Yeah, it'll all be good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's not necessary. Thank you. Are there any further speakers? Councillors, thank you. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, Councillor Nielsen, do you wish to close the debate? Thank you. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. We now move to QN 5/23. Can I just have somebody, did the questions and notice be read and noted? All those in favour? Okay, thank you. All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. We now move to the confidential section. Okay, thank you. The outcome of the confidential ordinary session, CS 30/23, was the recommendation on the business paper and was carried unanimously. The outcome for CS 31/23, Greening Our City, was the recommendation on the business paper and was carried unanimously. There being no further business, I declare the meeting closed at 9:58 p.m. Thank you.